Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Today I'm going to discuss with you the very important topic in histology of the eye, that is retina. And this is the last topic in the histology of the eyeball. So what is retina? I hope you understand it very well, that this is the innermost layer of the eyeball, that is the neural layer. It transduces the sensory stimulus of the light into the nerve impulses and resulting in the sensation of vision. The retina is composed of mainly nervous tissue which has 6 major types of the neurons, and as well as there is one special type of glial like cells which are the Muller cells, and we will discuss all of them in this lecture. It is a very complexly organized structure. Retina is a very complex structure, so the organization of the retina can easily be understood by appreciation of the fact that this is only 3 neurons deep, and these 3 neurons which are playing the important role in histological organization of retina, these are the photoreceptor cells, then the bipolar cells and ganglion cells. So only these 3 neuronal layers deep you can understand. To understand the histological features of the retina, you should know a brief knowledge of development of the retina. Embryologically, the retina is developed as a forebrain vesicle from this area of the forebrain. It is derived as an optic vesicle. This optic vesicle, it soon transformed into a double layered or double walled optic cup, as you can see here, that this is becoming a double walled optic cup. So it is derived from the forebrain tissue as optic vesicle. Later on, this is becoming the double walled optic cup, which has an outer layer and inner layer of that optic cup. And here you can see that this is connected and attached to the brain tissue through this optic stalk, and this optic stalk later in development becomes the optic nerve. So this portion of the outer layer that develops into the pigment epithelium of the retina, and the inner layer is making up the functional component of the retina, that is its neural layer or the neural retina. So this is derived from this inner wall or inner layer of the optic cup, which is making the neural component of the retina. So this pigment epithelium, which is derived from the outer wall of the optic cup, it is loosely attached to the neural retina, but it is going to attach firmly with the brush membrane of the choroid. As you have seen that the basement membrane of the pigment epithelium is one of the component of that brush membrane as well. So this pigment layer, which is derived from outer wall of this optic cup, it is firmly adherent to the brush membrane of the choroid, but it is loosely attached to the neural layer of the retina. So during the processing of histological slide formation, these layers can be separated easily and detached, but this can be separated also in the conditions, in the pathological conditions as a result of the injury, or in case of the diabetes mellitus, the neural retina may become separated completely or partially. It is going to detach from that pigment epithelium of the retina. Then this condition is known as retinal detachment. So retinal detachment is the condition which results either because of any injury or due to the diabetes mellitus. In that condition, this neural layer can partially or completely separated or detached from the pigment layer of the retina. When these two layers they are separated and detached, then we label this condition the retinal detachment. And this can lead to the partial or complete loss of the vision in the affected eye as well. So retinal detachment is the condition which is because of the separation of the neural layer and the pigmented layer of the retina, and this results in the loss. So there are the layers of the retina. On the basis of the structural features, you can see that retina is composed of 10 layers. There are 10 histological layers, which you can also see in this picture. So in sequence, if you start from the choroid, and or the, you can say that is the outermost layer of the retina, this is the pigment layer, which is also known as retinal pigment epithelium. So first of all, there is retinal pigment epithelium, and it is also having the melanin pigments in it. Next to that is the photosensitive layer, which is the layer of rods and cones, which are the photosensitive neurons. The rods and cones, these are present in the second layer. Third one is the external limiting membrane. Next to that is the outer nuclear layer. Then here in this outer nuclear layer, you can appreciate the perichorions or the neuronal cell bodies of rods and cones. Then is the outer plexiform layer, where there will be the synapses between the axons and dendrites of underlying layer. Then is inner nuclear layer, which is composed of the bipolar cells. Next to that is the inner plexiform layer, and there is a single row of the ganglion cell layer. So there are 3 neurons, as I have told you, the photosensitive, rods and cones. Then are these bipolar neurons in the retina and the ganglion cells in the retina. These are the 3 neuronal cells which are present in the structure of retina. Then the axons of these ganglion cells, they emerge out and they are going to form the optic nerve fibers. So this 9th layer is the nerve fiber layer, and in the last, the 10th layer is the internal limiting membrane. So these are 10 layers structurally which are making up a histological feature of our retina. So here this is H and E stained slide, which you can appreciate of a structure of the eyeball. Here this collagenous layer, the connective tissue layer, which you can see that is the sclera. Then deep to this dark staining, highly pigmented layer with blood vessels is known as the choroid. So deep to this choroid is this epithelium like layer, which you can appreciate, and this epithelium is also going to have the pigment in it. This is the retinal pigment epithelium. Then is rod and cone cell layer, outer limiting membrane. Then is the outer nuclear layer, outer plexiform layer. You can see this whole outer plexiform layer where will be the synapses. Inner nuclear layer having the bipolar neurons. Again the synapses, synaptic zone, which is inner plexiform layer. Then is this single row and single neuronal layer of the ganglion cells. Its axon and fibers emerging as the nerve fiber layer, and then is the internal limiting membrane. So that's how this whole structure is making up the structure of the retina. So one by one we are going to consider and see the histological features of all these layers. So first of all, the retinal pigment epithelium. This pigment layer is composed of and lined by cuboidal to low columnar epithelial cells with basal nuclei. And at the basal site, these epithelial cells are firmly adherent to the brush membrane of the choroid. Towards the apical site, there are many cylindrical processes you can appreciate, and these cylindrical process they surround and interdigitate with the outer segments of the rods and cones. So you can see that these rods and cones, these cells, their outer segments are very well supported and protected into these cellular processes from the apical part of the retinal pigment epithelium. Also towards that apical side there is abundant and numerous melanin pigments which are present in this area, and the cytoplasm of these epithelial cells, they are having the large number of melanin pigments, melanin granules, and there is mitochondria, abundant smooth endoplasmic reticulum, Golgi apparatus, lysosomes and many phagosomes. These are present in the cytoplasm. They are having very important function because of the presence of these melanin pigment, that it is helping to absorb the light, and the cells which are present in the retinal pigment epithelium, they are held together and joined together by the tight junctions. So these tight junctions of zonula occludens type, they are very helpful for the formation of blood retinal barrier. So in this layer the blood is going to pass through the choroid, and retina, these layers are getting the nutrition through the diffusion from the blood vessels present in the choroid. So when the blood passing from the blood vessels of choroid and enters and diffused into the retina has these tight or zonula occludens type of junctions, which is resulting in the blood retinal barrier, and by this the toxic components and other macromolecules, they can be prevented to get entry into the deeper layer of retina. So that's how they. So if you see the functions of the retinal pigment epithelium, the very important one is the absorption of light. As you have seen that the light, when it has passed through the photoreceptors and then stimulated them, this prevents the reflection of the light from the deeper layer of the eyeball because of the presence of melanin pigments in the epithelium. So these melanin pigments, which I have told you are abundant and accumulated in the apical part of the retinal pigment epithelium, they creates the dark chamber effect in the eye, so prevent the reflection of light. As I have told you also that there are phagosomes in the cytoplasm of this epithelium which help in the phagocytosis of the membranous lamellae of the outer segments of rods and cones. These are constantly shed and then replaced by the new lamellas, and the older lamellas which are shed by the rods and cones, these are collected by the retinal pigment epithelium. So this retinal pigment epithelial cells serve as scavenger cells and help in the phagocytosis of these lamellas. The another important function is the storage, esterification and release of the vitamin A and their constant supply to the photoreceptor. That is also the very important function of this epithelium. The large quantities of the vitamin A, they are going to exchanged from the retinal pigment epithelium into the outer segments of photoreceptors. This interchange, that is very important because this vitamin A is essential precursor for the photosensitive pigment which is present in these cells. Another very important function which is I have told you in the previous slide, that is the blood retinal barrier. So because of the presence of the tight junction between the retinal pigment epithelial cells, it enables and contributes to formation of that barrier, and these junctions seal the intercellular spaces so that exchange of the all types of material between the choroid capillaries and photoreceptor cells of retina, it occurs through these retinal pigment cells. So this arrangement prevents the passage of toxic macromolecules from the choroid capillaries to the photoreceptor cells. The retinal pigment epithelium, it also helps to support, and it is resulting in the structural and metabolic support to the neural retina by secreting ATP and other very important growth. So here you can see the structural organization of the retina. First of all is this pigment epithelium, the retinal pigment epithelium, which is cuboidal to low columnar, having these basal nuclei, and cells are joined together by the tight junction making up the retinal blood barrier. Then its apical side is showing you these intercellular processes. These cellular processes accommodate and supporting the outer components and outer segments of rods and cones. As you can see here, these are well supported into these cellular segments. These are going to cast off their membranous lamellars. As you can see here, these lamellars, they are going to make the new one, and the older one is phagocytosed by the retinal pigment epithelium. Number 2, they are going to have these melanocytes, which are helping to create the dark chamber effect in the eyeball. So next to that retinal pigment epithelium, you can see there is the layer of the photoreceptor cells. These are the photoreceptor layer in which the outer segments of rods and cones are appreciated. Deep to this is this nuclei of the rods and cones, which are making up the outer nuclear layer, and their axons are making the synaptic junctions with the dendrites of bipolar cells present in underlying layer. So here they are making complex synaptic junctions, so that's why this is outer plexiform layer. Then is this inner nuclear layer having the neuronal cell bodies of the bipolar cells, and its axons are making synapses with the dendrites of ganglion cells in inner synaptic or inner plexiform layer. This one is the ganglion cell layer, which is giving rise to the axons which converge together making the nerve fiber layer, that is optic nerve, and deep to this is the internal limiting membrane. So here if you see that the elements of neural retina, you can see there are the photoreceptor cells, which are these rods and cones. Then are the direct conducting cells, which are conducting the nerve impulses. These are bipolar and ganglion cell layer. The association neurons are also present. These association neurons are the horizontal cells, the amacrine cells, and interplexiform cells. These 3 types of neurons we will appreciate in this inner nuclear layer, which are the association neurons. And the very important supporting neuron, that is the Muller cell, I will show you in the next slide. So actually the components of neural retina are the photosensitive cells, which are photoreceptors, these rods and cones. The conducting cells are the bipolar and ganglion cell neurons. The association neurons are horizontal cell, amacrine cells, and interplexiform neurons. And supporting or glial type of So here you can see the photoreceptor cells of the retina, which are the rods and cones. This is elongated rod-like structure. This is rod, and here you can appreciate this is a cone-like structure, which is a cone. The rod cells, these are numerous in the retina. They are 120 million, and these are associated with the dim light or very low light levels. So these are very sensitive, and they are having importance for the night vision. So you can appreciate here in the structure of that rod that this is the outer segment and this is inner segment. The outer segment, here you can appreciate these membranous disc-like structures which are showing you that striations. It is because of the infoldings of plasma membrane of the outer segment of the rod cells. So the inner layer of the plasma membrane, they are going to form these infoldings and arranged into the pile of this membranous discs. These are going to be separated. They lose their connection with the plasma membrane and become independent. They are going to be replaced by formation of new membranous lamellas, and the older ones, they are cast off and shed from these outer segments, which are phagocytosed by the retinal pigment epithelium. So this outer segment, here in this membranous lamellas, there is the rod cells which contains photosensitive pigment, that is rhodopsin. This rhodopsin is also known as visual purple. The rhodopsin is the combination of vitamin A, aldehyde retinol, and the protein, that is scotopsin. So the vitamin A retinol with scotopsin is forming the rhodopsin, which is the photosensitive pigment present in this transversely located and arranged membranous lamellas. So that's why their transverse orientation is very helpful to allow the rhodopsin to interact with the path of the light which is entering into the retina. So this one outer segment is connected to the inner segment through this narrow connecting stalk, and here in this connecting stalk is a cilium, that is a modified cilium, which has the same structure as having the 9 peripheral doublets, and that microtubules, these are arranged in the form of 9 peripheral doublets, and the one basal body that is located in the inner segment of the rod. The inner segment of the rod, as you can see here, that is the site of metabolic activity. Here proteins and phospholipids are synthesized for the energy production. So here you can appreciate the Golgi apparatus, the mitochondria, the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, rough endoplasmic reticulum, as well as the glycogen granules. The proteins and phospholipids are synthesized in this inner segment, and then they are passed through that connecting stalk to the outer segment of these rods into these membranous discs. So this inner segment that is connected to the perichorion or the neuronal cell body through this stalk-like structure that is known as the rod fiber. This is outer rod fiber, and then this neuronal cell body, it is emerging as an axon, which is inner rod fiber, and this inner rod fiber, which is actually the axon from these photoreceptor cells, they end up into that expanded foot-like area at its termination. This is the rod spherule, which is going to form the synaptic plexus with the dendrites of underlying bipolar cells. So this is the structure of a rod cell. So same as in the rod cell, you can see here this is a cone cell which is also having to be surrounded by these cytoplasmic processes of the retinal pigment epithelium. Here in this outer segment you can appreciate these membranous lamellars, but these membranous lamellars, they are not going to become separated or independent, and they retain their continuity with the plasma membranes which is making up here. They are also going to replace and shed off from this outer segment and then phagocytosed into the retinal pigment epithelium through a modified cilium at its connecting stalk, where it is this outer segment is also connected to the inner segment, and again in this inner segment here this is the area where the metabolic activity is going to take place. But you can appreciate one very important thing, that in between this inner segment and perichorion, as you have seen here, is the outer rod fiber. Such fiber or such connection is absent in the cone cells. And cone cells which are associated with the daylight, they are very less in number as compared to the rod cells. They are only 6 million in the human retina. So here the very important pigment, which is the photosensitive pigment in the cone cell, these are known as iodopsin. Iodopsin is it is composed of the retinol along with the protein photopsin. So this is a combination of retinol, which is vitamin A, plus photopsin is going to make up that iodopsin. These cone cells are going to have 3 different type of the iodopsin, which are responsible for the sensitivity of different colors, as there is the red, green or blue colors which are having maximum sensitivity by these cone cells in the human retina. And I hope you have done it very clearly in the physiology. So here actually you have to understand the structure, outer segment, inner segments with these lamellas which are having these pigments. The photosensitive pigments are present along with these membranous discs. Then this is the inner segment for metabolic activity, and then is this axon here, the axon of the cone cell that is going to make up into the cone pedicle. As compared to the rod, this is a very expanded and broad termination of the cone, which is known as cone pedicle. So rod has rod spherule and this has cone pedicle, and then they are making the synaptic junctions with. So the neural retina, that is going to have very important structural composition. As you have seen, there are the rod and cone photoreceptor cells. Now moving on to the next, which are the horizontal cells, the amacrine cells. These are actually the cells which are association cells present in the human retina, and they are mostly present in the inner nuclear layer. And the bipolar cells, the ganglion cells, these are the one which are the conducting cells present in. So this is very interesting and self-explanatory diagram which is showing you the all type of the cells present in retina, and by looking into their structure you can also understand the functions of these cells as well. So starting from here, the first of all, this is the retinal pigment epithelium, showing you these cytoplasmic processes, and here there you can appreciate they are surrounding the outer segments of rods and cones. So first of all, the first layer is this retinal pigment epithelium, and the second layer is the photoreceptor layer having the outer segments of rods and cones. Then here you can see the perichorions or the cell bodies of the rods and cones, where you can appreciate ending up the rods is making rod spherule, and the cone, it is terminated into the cone pedicle. This is making synapses with the dendrites of the bipolar neuronal cells present in the inner nuclear layer, as you can see here. So this synaptic area is known as outer plexiform layer of the retina. And here you can appreciate this cell which is lying horizontally. So definitely its horizontal orientation is indicating this is horizontal cell. So you can appreciate that in the outer plexiform layer, here you can see this is the horizontally lying this horizontal cell, which is the association cell. How this is association cell? You can see its dendrite and the axon. They are making the synaptic junctions with the cone, these cone pedicles here, as well as into the rod spherules. So they are making the synaptic junctions through its dendrites and axon with the cone and rod cells in outer plexiform layer. So that's how they are making association between the cone cells of one area to the rod cells to the other area. So they are making connection between rod and cone cells. Then these bipolar cells, you can see these are bipolar, giving this dendrite and then the axons. The axons are moving towards the inner segment and making the synaptic junction in inner plexiform layer with the dendrites of ganglion cell layer, which are present singly in a row. But here you can also appreciate these cells, these cells having their cell bodies located in the inner nuclear layer along with the bipolar cells. These are amacrine cells. Very interesting to these cells, they are having very numerous and many dendrites but no axons. So the axons are absent for the amacrine cells, and their dendrites are making synapses with the axons of bipolar cell as well as dendrites of ganglion cell in inner plexiform layer, but their neuronal cells body are present in the inner nuclear layer. And you can see these green cells, very interesting elongated cells here. This one having this nucleus, this is one cell and this is the another cell. So can you see these cells which are very long and extensive, having the neuronal cell body in the inner layer, neuronal layer, but their cytoplasm are extending towards the outer limiting membrane. Here they are terminated and forming their multiple neurons. They are making this row of the layer which is outer limiting membrane. So actually this is the cytoplasmic extension of Muller cell. And you can also see and appreciate that this must be the supporting cell which is supporting the rest of the cells and neurons present in the retina so extensively. So they are specialized glial cells present in the retina, also known as retinal gliocytes or Muller cells. So the cytoplasmic extensions of the Muller cells extend towards the outer limiting membrane, reaching till the area of the outer segments of rods and cones, and here they are making the tight junctions or zonula occludens type of the junctions at these areas of the rods and cones. So these cytoplasmic process reaching till the rods and cone, making the outer limiting membrane, and its inner cytoplasmic extension that is going to form the inner limiting membrane, and this inner limiting membrane is actually the basement membrane of these Muller cells. So here this is the basement membrane which is making up the inner limiting membrane. Then this is the neural gliocyte, the Muller cell, its cell body in the inner nuclear layer, and its outer cytoplasmic extension which is reaching externally till the area of the rods and cone, and then adheres with that, making up the outer limiting membrane. So inner and outer limiting membranes are nothing else, they are actually just the cytoplasmic extensions of Muller cells. Okay, I hope you understand it. And these are the ganglion cells, and here their axons are emerging out as the optic nerve fibers. So that's how you can understand all the structural composition of the cell layers. And now what are these 10 layers? Revising it again, starting from outer to inner sides. This is the retinal pigment epithelium, and I hope you have understood till now its function and its structure. Then is the layer of the rods and cones, external limiting membrane, which is just the Muller cell and its cytoplasmic extensions making junctional complexes with rods and cones, and then making this external limiting membrane. Outer nuclear layer of the neuronal cell bodies of rods and cones, outer plexiform layer, here the axons of rods and cones making synapses with the bipolar cells and horizontal cells. Inner nuclear layer having bipolar cells, horizontal cells, amacrine cells and the Muller cells. Inner plexiform layer contains synapses among bipolar cells, amacrine cells and ganglion cells. I have shown you in the previous slide. Then ganglion cells, their axons emerging as the nerve fiber layer which is optic nerve, and inner limiting membrane is the basement membrane of the Muller cell. And remember, these Muller cells are also known as retinal gliocytes. These are the glial cells of retina. So again, these are showing you the orientations here of all the components. These are starting from here, the pigment epithelium, then till reaching to there, this optic nerve fiber. This is the histological H&E slide where you can see that this is sclera, this is choroid. This epithelium with melanin pigment is the first layer of retina, that is retinal pigment epithelium, and then rods and cones, photoreceptor layer, then is the outer limiting membrane. You have the rod and cone cells, neuronal bodies, then is the outer plexiform layer, then this is the inner nuclear layer with the bipolar cells, inner plexiform layer, ganglion layer, 9th is the nerve fiber layer, and the 10th is the basement membrane of Muller cell making the inner limiting membrane. So these are the outer nuclear, outer plexiform, inner nuclear, inner plexiform. So that's how you can see the histological slide of the retina under the microscope, and I hope till now you are going to understand its structure. Here you must remember that retinal detachment is actually the separation of the retinal pigment epithelium from rest of the neural layer of retina, which is known as retinal detachment, and it is most commonly seen during if there is any injury or in the conditions, especially in diabetes mellitus. So this is the area of fovea centralis. You must remember here all the inner layers, they are just present at the periphery. So the inner layers, these one which is specially, these are the bipolar and ganglion cell layer. They are going to be present just at the periphery of that fovea centralis, and here this is the area of the rods and cones where you are going to have mostly the concentrated areas of the cones. So this fovea centralis is that circular and shallow depression lying along the posterior pole of the eye, and here there is absence of these inner layer. They are just present at the periphery, and the most commonly here you can have the cone cells. So this is the area of the very extremely precise visual acuity. So in this area, it is the area where you have maximum visual acuity. So that is fovea centralis. You can see histologically here, this is just having the inner layers at periphery and absent in this center of the area, having maximum visual acuity. And what are the more common photoreceptors present in this fovea centralis are the cone cells. So for the blood supply of the retina, you must remember that the outer layers, they are receiving the blood supply through this blood vessels present in the choroid, and they are comprising the pigment epithelium, and to the layer of the rods and cones, to outer nuclear layer and outer plexiform layer. So till that outer plexiform layer, the retina has been supplied by the blood through the blood vessels in the choroid through diffusion, and also there is retinal pigment epithelium serving as retinal blood barrier. Then is the inner layers beyond that inner plexiform layer. This is going to be supplied by the artery, the branches of the central artery of the retina. Here, as you can see, that this central artery of retina is passing into the retina through along with that optic nerve. So here its branches, they are going to supply the rest of the area, which is to the ganglion cell layer, to the inner plexiform, to bipolar cells, and all this is supplied by the branches from central artery of the retina. So that's how this is getting its blood supply. So central artery of retina is, you also know, that is the end artery, and if there is the blockage of this artery, this can lead to the blindness, as it is supplying to these main and major areas, which is these ganglion cells responsible for the sensation of vision. So now some accessory structure of the eye which are important histologically. You must remember the conjunctiva, which is lining up the inner surface of eyelid and anterior part of the cornea and sclera. The conjunctiva lining up this eyelid is known as the palpebral conjunctiva, and for the sclera and over cornea it is known as bulbar conjunctiva. And you remember that in my previous lecture I have told you that the stratified squamous epithelium of the cornea continues into the epithelium of conjunctiva at the corneoscleral junction. So the epithelium of conjunctiva is stratified columnar epithelium. So this is having stratified columnar epithelium. The typical and the best example of this epithelium in the human is that conjunctiva. You can see here these cells, these are columnar cells with goblet cells. So the conjunctiva consists of that stratified columnar epithelium with the goblet cells, and it is going to have the lamina propria as well, which is very thin and loose connective tissue, and secretions of the goblet cells, they are becoming the part of the tear film. So here the tear film is also having the contribution from secretion of goblet cells of conjunctiva. So the conjunctiva has stratified columnar epithelium with goblet cells and its secretion from tear film and its lamina. Next, here you can see as well that this area that is showing you the area of the cornea, and from here this cornea is continues into that conjunctiva. They are making up the bulbar and palpebral conjunctiva, so its epithelium is continues into these conjunctiva. Here the other structures, you can see the structure of the eyelid, in which you can see starting from the skin having this subcutaneous tissue, along with it is having the eyelashes. There is the next layer of the skeletal muscle, which is continuation of the orbicularis oculi muscle into the eyelid, and deeper area has these tarsal glands. So the tarsal plates, the tough fibrous plate having the tarsal glands, which are responsible for the secretions for tear film as well. So here is the lacrimal apparatus, in which there is the lacrimal gland, which is located here into the lacrimal fossa at the lateral aspect of the roof of the orbit, and these lacrimal glands, they are secreting watery lacrimal fluid, which is the tear. So the main bulk of the tear is actually from these lacrimal gland secretions. So these lacrimal glands, they are having the lobes, separate lobes, which are connected through these excretory ducts into the superior conjunctiva, and from here you can see that these are the lacrimal canals, and collecting the excessive secretions from lacrimal glands, and then it is going to drain it into the nose through this nasolacrimal duct into the inferior meatus of the nose. So in the gross anatomy you will study them in detail, all the structure of the lacrimal apparatus, but here just you have to look into its histological picture, that the lacrimal glands, they consist of the acini, which are having pyramidal cells. They are eosinophilic cells. Myoepithelial cells are also present in between the acinar cells at their basal lamina. And the stroma of the lacrimal glands, they are going to have the loose connective tissue. So you can appreciate many acini, these numerous acini having the pyramidal cells, and these are eosinophilic secretory cells for the production of the watery secretion for the tears, and then this is having the loose connective tissue. And if you appreciate the ducts here, the ducts which you can see, these are having the simple cuboidal type epithelium. So here where you can appreciate simple cuboidal lined ducts, these are the ducts of the gland, whereas these pyramidal shaped structures are the acini. Moving on to the lens, here you can see the lens which is connected to the ciliary body through these zonular fibers, also known as the suspensory ligament of the lens. The lens is just a very simple structure. So this is the just simple histological structure of the lens, which is having the lens capsule. This is very thin, transparent, homogeneous connective tissue, which is made up of type 4 collagen fibers and glycosaminoglycan. And also the lens, it is going to have very elastic structure. It can assume the globular shape as well as the flattened shape depending upon the tensions on zonular fibers. Deep to the lens capsule is the lens epithelium, which is a simple cuboidal type of the epithelium that is just lying on the outer surface of the lens. And in the deeper area, here is the dense lens fibers, which are the collagen fibers. They are running parallel to each other and having the protein deposition in them, that is the crystalline protein. So they are just having the special type of the protein that is crystalline, and then these lens fibers, they are running parallel to each other and making up a dense fibrous tissue in the inner aspect of the lens. So the lens is actually a transparent structure, but if it become opaque due to any reason, especially in the old age, the opacity of the lens, that is known as cataract. But in the young and in children, this opacity, this can be because of exposure to the ultraviolet radiation, and also the diabetes mellitus is one of the main cause to make it opaque, and that condition is known as cataract. So This is just the structure of the lens capsule, the lens epithelium, and the dense lens fibers making up the lens structure, histological structure. So these are just accessory components in the eye. You must have to focus on the retina. Actually, that is very important for the examination point of view as well as in histological practicals. That is very important. You must memorize the all 10 layers of retina, and I think they are a bit easier now if you study them with very carefully. And so here I end up with today's lecture and also the whole of the histological structures of all layers of the eyeball. Thank you very much.